two really exciting sessions on my favorite topic, data. And I don't think there's any person in Palestine more appropriate for this topic than the person we have today, which is Mr. Faiz Zahed, who's arguably one of Palestine's most successful entrepreneurs. He's, of course, the founder and CEO of Yom Sefid, which got a $1 million investment from Sidara Ventures, Sidara's first investment, and one I'm personally very excited about. The company has done, this year, 7-digit sales, so we can't say more than that, but they're doing very well because of Faiz's leadership, and I would argue because of his dedication to data, which is what he's going to tell you all about today. Like all the other instructors with Start Me Up, he's volunteering over 2 sessions, so we're very grateful to him for that. And thank you so much. Okay.
My pleasure. So I actually changed the name of the session, as you guys can tell, to something which I think is more explanatory of what I ended up having in my content. This is my first time teaching anything, actually, so you're gonna have to bear with me, and you know, I'll get your feedback. Hopefully, maybe learn from this session and become a better teacher by the next one. But I've put in a lot of effort into this one and making it interesting. More so even using real life examples, and I've even used an example from the group here. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to do a little introduction about data and why I think it's important for whatever you're doing, actually, but specifically for startups, and why I think that data is usually a key success factor in multiple places over the lifetime of most startups that you see becoming successful. We'll talk about some basic safety measures for dealing with data, and sort of it's a two-sided sword. So if you basically get out of data what you put into it. So we're going to learn how to deal with data safely, and then I'm gonna run a little video, and we're gonna have like a group discussion, try to solve some things. Then we're gonna go through an example, and then we're gonna go through the group exercise, which is really interesting. Before we start, how many of you actually went through the homework, or I don't know if to call homework, whatever you need to do? Okay, so good luck to the rest, because I hope you have a good background in statistics, or some background at least, because I'm not going to go over the basic terminology which I'm going to be presenting today. So let's start with the introduction. Why are startups really hard? A lot of people have a hard time explaining it, especially before they join a startup. It's something you hear, it's really hard, they work long hours, they have so much trouble figuring something out, and they're battling giants at the end of the day, and that really encompasses most of the difficulties in the startup. You end up working long hours, you end up doing all of the things that you're doing, and I think this picture is really a good representation of that. You're somebody who's really small against someone who's much bigger, has a lot more resources, and has the skill, right? So you're a street fighter. You're trying to be fast and precise. You can definitely win. We all know where this picture comes from, David and Goliath. We all know who won this battle in the end. And we see it happening day by day in the startup scene when startups take down huge companies. So there is a way to do it, but you need to be fast and precise, and data is a key part of that. So why is it important? Why is it important to use data if you want to be the David in the battle? First of all, startups are really good at focusing on a specific niche and getting to know it really well. So if I had to use Yom Sefid as an example, we probably know the Middle Eastern hotel booking space better than anybody else in the world. So our team over here, the marketing team knows how to market hotels to Arabs in the best way possible. The development team knows how to develop products for Arabs. And by getting really close to your niche, you're essentially allocating all of your resources or learning efforts in that specific niche. When our competitor, for example, Booking.com, would be learning on a global scale, and they might focus their efforts on the US market because it makes up a much larger chunk of their revenue. So that is really important to be able to capitalize on that potential gain that you can get as a startup. You've probably heard a lot about iteration and product iteration, and we're going to change the model and pivot and move our button from here to there. And that's all nice, but it's actually trivial and exhausts your resources if you're not doing it where it matters. So, you know, if you have a problem in your checkout page and you're iterating on your home page, for example, you're really wasting developer time. What you should be iterating on is your checkout page. And the only way you're going to find out or be able to point out where the problem is by following your data, right? Seeing where users are dropping out. And data is going to really tell you where the problem is, and then later on we're going to see also how data tells us how to solve problems as well. You're going to get to extract more value out of your bucks. So I've put some examples here below of stuff that we do with the MSAF. But probably what data does the most for us is it saves us a lot of money. So at the end of each month, we go through all of our marketing campaigns, and we can tell, you know, definitely how much money we made out of this campaign, how much money we paid for this campaign. So that's something really useful. And if we didn't have the data tools and the tracking tools that we use, we wouldn't be able to point out, you know, we made X amount of dollars out of this campaign, Y amount of dollars out of the other campaign, and keep optimizing and adding more, you know, more spending into where we're making more money. So that's something really important.
Ferris, can you move back into your left so you're in the light? Right now you're just a shadow.
Just
Okay.
a little bit
Back.
Is that good?
Can you move
actually
back?
on
Now I'm far away from it.
Thanks.
Okay.
That's better,
Is that okay?
I guess. Thank you.
I just want to
Alright.
see your beautiful face.
And then finally, this is really, really important, even if you're not, you know, you don't have to be a founder and you don't have to be in a startup. But without data, you're just another one with an opinion. And this really matters because everybody has opinions, right? I can show you a page, somebody can tell me it's ugly, the other guy will tell me it's good, an idea, you know, this guy thinks it's a good idea, the other one thinks it's a bad one. And there's so many people around you with opinions, but in the end of the day, which opinions do you take, right? And the same thing works when you're, for example, approaching investors. We come to investors and say, oh, I have a really great idea, I have a great company, it's going to do really well, but you know, you don't have any data to back it up. So to have more confidence with your investors, if you're leading a team, the team will not follow you for very long if you're not backing your opinions with data. And I think this also reflects to other things in life as well, so you can sort of take that methodology and pull what you want out of it. I think you can't really see the colors well in that slide, but so I tried to basically map out what I think makes really, really successful startups. And that's why I put a unicorn in the middle, because they're really rare, but they don't exist actually. But so we have social sites on the top, Hacker DNA. You guys probably know why that is necessary in a startup, because you're trying to figure things out that others can't. And that really requires a hacker way of thinking. And domain expertise, so you know the space that you're in really well. So we know the travel space, for example. You know, other startups might be in a different domain, so they might hire experts in that specific domain or become experts in that specific domain. And statistics is an integral part of this. You might not see the connection now, but I hope that by the end of the presentation you will sort of make the connection, and you will see what added value you're getting out of integrating data and statistics into your daily life, basically, in a startup. So before we actually start to use statistics, and you know, we're going to go through the dangers of using statistics, and we're going to go through the safety method. But one thing that you need to have in mind is that statistics is garbage in, garbage out. So you get out of data what you put into it, and there are some really good examples. There are real life examples which we will see later on. But I've put together some funny ones here, which I hope you'll understand. Those are please do the homework. So this is an entrepreneur, and he's claiming 100 million Americans exposed to drinking water are obese. So he's coming up with a startup to warn people about the dangers of drinking water. Actually, this this claim is true, right? I mean, obese people drink water too. So what he did was he spotted a correlation between people that drink water and obesity, and he decided that there's a cause and effect mechanism there, which is obviously wrong. So this is an extreme example, but you can definitely think of other more subtle examples that can mislead you as an entrepreneur if you don't pay attention to how you're dealing with data. The second example is the average adult has only one testicle, which is true as well, right? If you think about it, men and women, so you probably sampled both. He's coming up with a startup that's releasing a line of new underwear called Onesies. I spent a long time thinking about the name. But so this one has a sampling problem, for example. So again, you can think of probably more subtle examples. So what do people usually get wrong? And the one that I see the most is correlation versus causation. So people will see that two things correlate with each other, and then they would intuitively decide that this one is causing the other, or the inverse. And in many cases, this can lead you down, really seriously down the drain, because you don't end up doing what you need to do. You actually end up doing the inverse in certain cases when you get the relationship backwards. Sampling errors and these sort of break down to population size, which I see a lot of entrepreneurs doing. So you'd say, yeah, I did a survey and 10 of my friends answered it. They think my product is great. So 10 is not a viable sample. We're not really going to talk much about population size this session. In the next session, I'm actually going to talk about multivariate analysis. So I'm going to cover population sizes there and confidence level and all. Sampling bias is a huge one. So just to give you guys some examples that you're probably familiar with. So think about, you've all probably read these MBA surveys where people say, our average alumni salary is $300,000 a year. So this one has something which is called a voluntary response bias. So these surveys are sent out to all alumni. So let's say they have 10,000 people alumni, let's assume. And maybe they get 500 answers. And these 500 answers average out to be what they claim the average salary to be. But the truth of the matter is that actually most of the people that didn't answer the survey did not answer it because their salaries are way lower. Maybe they're unemployed, so they're not too keen on answering the survey. So you have a huge skew of salaries that are in the end represented in these studies or publications that the MBA programs publish. The second one, which you're probably more familiar with, is political surveys. So somebody might come in and ask you, who do you support, Fatah or Hamas? And you're going to say, well, none, so I'm not going to answer your survey. I'm simply not going to respond. But who's going to respond to that survey? The people who are on the extreme, either supporting Hamas or Fatah, and that really, you can use it in every single political system. It's the people on the extreme ends that usually answer these surveys because they want their opinions to be heard. So then the middle is sort of underrepresented. And startups, for example, you might send out a survey to a group of users or potential users, be like, how much are you willing to pay for that product? And maybe 10% of the users will answer you, and the 90% did not answer because they're not interested in your product in the first place. So again, you're not really getting the right representation of what you meant to get when you constructed the research that you're doing. Not segmenting populations, so a lot of times you will be dealing with analytics. If some of you are not familiar with analytics, look it out, it's a great tool. But Google Analytics basically tells you pretty much everything that's going on your platform. I'll talk about more tools in the next session. But so people might do might look at data, and then they might not differentiate between mobile and desktop users. And these two users might have completely two different needs. So a mobile user, for example, will have less page views naturally because they're not as comfortable navigating your site on a mobile device. When a web user would have more page views. So you need to differentiate between the populations when you're trying to draw conclusions, and you need to draw different conclusions for different populations. This is why, for example, almost all sites today serve different views for mobile devices, different views for desktop, because these users have different needs. You need to accommodate for those needs in your when you're analyzing data as well. Customers versus users. So users are typically, let's say, at the early stage of your funnel. If you have a transactional site, so they're maybe going through your homepage, but they're not getting near your checkout page. You might want to optimize your site in different ways for those users than you would want to optimize for customers, for example, for things like post-checkout experience and extending customer lifetime value. So depending on which problem exactly you're trying to solve, if you saw a problem in your checkout funnel, you might want to look at data for users who dropped off from the checkout funnel and see and sort of dig in and try to see the data for these users, but not for users who did check out, because they figured it out. They might give you hints, but you should look at the population for which you're trying to solve the problem. Okay, so I'm gonna turn into the video now. And basically, what you guys are gonna watch, you have to be really careful watching it. So this guy basically did a study at UC Berkeley, and he came up with a conclusion that basically money makes you me, right? You're gonna see exactly what he did now. He's gonna explain it. And what I want you guys to do is I want you to pay attention to the flaws in his study. He has many flaws. So you need to pay attention. Then we're gonna have a discussion. I hope some of you catch on to some of the flaws here. So I hope it's working.
I'm on and ready to go.
Okay.
Speaker.
That's a speaker, guys. It's not everyone's
California, you're supposed to stop for a pedestrian at a crosswalk. And in a recent study, some 90% of drivers did, except for those driving luxury cars, like this BMW. They were almost as likely to run the intersection as wait for the person to cross the street.
Drivers of those BMWs, those Porsches, those Mercedes were anywhere from 3 to 4 times more likely to break the law than drivers of less expensive, low-status cars.
In a country more and more polarized by inequality, UCal Berkeley's Paul Piff led a series of startling studies showing an apparent link between wealth and, well, unseemly behavior.
Oh, by the way, there's candy there. It's actually for children for another study, but you're welcome to take a few pieces if you want to. Thank you.
That's the script an experimenter recited to every subject.
Okay, he conducted a lot of stupid research, but we're only going to focus on the cars for now. All right, so does anybody see anything here that was wrong? Anybody?
Bias.
How?
Only people who drive BMWs and Porsches are the one who are more likely to pass on the pedestrian, which is technically not
So it
true.
depends which road he chose, right? I mean, but in general, he's sampling everybody, so it's all cars that are passing through. There is a bias there, but it's not that exactly. He's just counting all cars. So actually, the first, one of the assumptions that he's making, which is wrong, is that he's making the connection between rich guy, luxury car. I mean, that's, we all know that might not be true. But we'll talk about it more in depth. Does anybody else have another idea?
There's also many other luxury cars. He didn't mention them. So maybe the BM drivers usually.
But he counted them. He counted them in his sample.
All of them.
I mean, the guy stood in the street and he was counting cars, and so he would count a car, register. Did he stop at the crosswalk? Did he not stop at the crosswalk?
Yeah, I understand. But what I'm saying is that, for example, a Ferrari, he didn't mention it. It's a luxury car. So, for example, the BM lovers are reckless in general. Doesn't have to be the rich people. That's my point.
So again, he was just giving examples of cars that he saw, but I'm guessing that he saw. So let's assume that he stood there for 2 years, okay, 3 years. So his sample size is big. He's seen all luxury cars, all crappy cars, whatever, and he has a certain cutoff point where he says this is a luxury car, this is a non-luxury car.
Maybe this is not like pedestrians. Yani they don't cross the street much, and he can drive.
No, because he wouldn't give somebody a penalty. So if a car passes and there's nobody on the street to cross, so it doesn't need to stop, he wouldn't record that at all. Let's just assume that.
His sample is probably too general or like too random. Maybe there is a relation between wealth and luxury cars and mean, but it's probably like a small percentage.
Yeah. So everything you said is kind of related, but let's. I wanna put it out on a diagram. This is a really important part, so it's very important that you guys understand this, so you can have the tools. Because later on, I'm only doing this for an hour. Probably not going to be able to teach you everything, but I do believe if there's anything that I can share with you from my experience, this is really useful. So these are sort of the ABCs of what you shouldn't do. And once you acquire these, I think that it will be very easy for you to take a second and third step going forward and building your knowledge if you choose to. So let's go through what he did, right? So what was he thinking? So the first thing he assumed, he says, okay, rich people drive luxury cars, so making that assumption. Second thing, he made an observation. So he was standing there in the street and he's like, he counted the cars, then he came up and he's like, oh, so most luxury cars actually don't stop at a crosswalk, so they must be mean. So everybody that drives a luxury car is mean, or is more probable to be mean. And then since he has, these two relationships here, he thought it was safe to assume that there's a cause here. So being rich causes you to be an asshole. This is what he's claiming. So let's go through some of the things that he did wrong. First of all, we don't know that assumption is true. So actually, what might be the case is that assholes only buy luxury cars. So if you're an asshole, you buy a luxury car, and that really doesn't depend on your income. Even if you're a poor asshole, you're going to spend all of your money on buying a luxury car, and then you're just going to go through that crosswalk and have this guy record bad points for rich people that they don't really deserve. So there might not be a single rich person in all of these cars that pass. They might just be assholes buying luxury cars. That might be the only thing. The second thing is that there might be an inverse relationship. So maybe actually our world is the kind of world where assholes become rich. It's not really money that makes you mean, it's being mean that makes you money. So it might be an inverse relationship, which he sort of didn't check that at all. And it absolutely can be true, right? And then the third thing is, so again, he made that assumption that poor people are not buying luxury cars. Actually, to be more exact, and he made the following assumption. So he said, there's a linear relationship between your level of income and the amount of money that you're going to be spending on buying a vehicle. So, if I make $10,000 a year, I'm going to be spending $1,000 on a vehicle. If I make $100,000 a year, I'm going to be making $10,000. And then if I'm going to be making, $10 million a year, I'm going to be spending $1 million on a vehicle. Which is obviously not true, right? I mean, that's not the case. It looks more like that. So first of all, there's a minimum level of income that you need to have to buy a vehicle in the first place, because they don't sell maybe there aren't any vehicles for like less than $1,000 or whatever. This is just a diagram that I drew really quickly, so don't pay attention to the exact numbers, but this is the actual case. You can't buy a vehicle if you're making $10 a year. You can't possibly afford one. And then as your income increases, at some point the contribution for each additional dollar that you're making towards purchasing, somebody who's middle class might spend 30 to 40% of his annual income maybe once every 10 years on buying a vehicle, while somebody who's the super rich, who's making $2-3 billion a year is not going to be spending that amount on buying a vehicle. That's not even possible. There aren't vehicles that cost that much. So there are diminishing returns to your spending on a vehicle as income increases, and that's really important. First of all, that's really important because we have a population that's missing from the sample. So we might have a group of poor people who are assholes, who are not even on the road because they can't afford a vehicle, right? So they're missing from our sample here. And then since our line is curved, that means that we have certain groups who are underrepresented, while we have other groups that are overrepresented. So again, the sample is biased by default. Even if everything else, all of the assumptions that he made, and the problem with the causation was true, then our sample is completely biased. And that's not even mentioning the fact that he was just standing in the street. We don't even know which street he was standing in. Maybe it's a street with a very low level of income, a high level of income, where you have overrepresentation, underrepresentation, how many observations he made, sample size, etc. So the study is not really a great one. You don't want to be that guy. So make sure you know your stuff by the end of this session. But all of this seems really complicated, and you don't want to, you're working at a company, you want to make a simple decision like, okay, should I place this button here or there? Should I increase spending on that marketing campaign, or should I reduce it? And you don't have time to do all of that. You don't have time to build the perfect experiments. And actually, also in reality, good data sets are rare. You're going to know that once you start working with data, is that you can never get the data set that you really want to work with, something which is really relevant. So if you're doing a startup that's selling something very particular to a particular group of people, there's no way that you're going to find a lot of data about that. And so what should we do in the startup? Really, the first thing that we should be doing is we should invest the time and resources in building our own data repository. Your own data is probably the most valuable, right? Because it's very relevant. It's exactly what's happening in your company right now, and there's no better sample or reflection of that anywhere else on the market where you can pull that data from. Obviously, you can get data about things that are happening externally, such as search volumes, etc. But really, you'll get to know that everybody has access to that data, including your competitors. So the most valuable data is the one that's yours. Don't over-engineer experiments, and that's why I said the previous section is really important. Be wary of assumptions that you're making and how they influence your outcome. So if you're making some assumptions like this guy did, and you're aware that you made these assumptions, then probably when you're inferring the data, what you got out of your experiment, you have those assumptions in mind, and you know that you're working with certain limitations. And a really good analogy for that is you need to treat data as if it was a really smart friend with a bad line problem. So it tries, it lies to you here and there, so you need to be cautious, but you can benefit, you can get quite a lot out of it. Okay, so let's start. Does anybody have questions on that or any of this that I just went through? It's really important that you guys ask questions if there's anything that you don't understand, because the next session is going to be reliant on this one. So.
You for YMSAF, you kept on collecting data until you reached out to your first user or customer? How long did that take from starting to your first user? Or did you just do a lot of research?
So
and
we
stuff?
launched the site on the first day. I was the first user probably because I refreshed the page. But what do you mean exactly? So where we, you know, how far off is the period from when you start working with data until you could actually collect your own data?
Or actually get that first user. From just your experience from YM7 from the beginning, you just collected a lot of data, research.
Because users are not hard to get, right? I mean, you post something on Facebook and you have, for a website at least, for us, it's not.
Actually booking a hotel and...
So for us, you know, until we got our first customer, I think it was a couple of days since we launched the site.
Okay.
Maybe it was our friend or something.
Ah, alright.
Anybody else? We have time, so and I'm gonna give you a hard time if you didn't. If I found out later that somebody didn't get it, I'm gonna ask a question. Okay. All right. So actually, for the example, I chose to work with one of the because I was evaluating our deliverables last time, and so I chose Team A. I thought it was interesting, so. I chose it as an example. So let's all pretend that we're in Team A right now, so you can you feel like you're actually doing this. And so they need to do two things. That's what you're doing at a very early stage of the startup. Other than team building, etc. But you're trying to quickly familiarize yourself with the space, assuming that you don't come from a background which is of the same space that startup is targeting. And you need to build an early stage customer acquisition strategy. So Team A happens to be building a marketplace for personal trainers. So people can find personal trainers, and then they cut off a commission on the transaction or the first transaction. They're still trying to figure out a good way to monetize. So what can they do first? I mean, maybe they don't even go to the gym. They don't even know any personal trainers. How are you going to get an idea of how this whole thing works? So this is a tool that I really like. It's called Google Correlate. You all know what correlations are, right? Because we went through these. Okay. So basically, what this tool does is you put in a search term. So I put personal trainer, and then we return search terms which have a similar pattern, right? So a high correlation does not necessarily mean that there's an increase or a decrease. It means that these two sort of move alongside each other. And correlations go from -1 to 1. -1 means inverse correlation. So when this one increases, the other one decreases. 0 means no correlation, and then 1 means they're moving together. So I think you can't read. Nobody can see it, right? So I'll read it to you. We got some really interesting correlations here. So I'll read the interesting ones. Obviously, we got weight loss workout, gyms in, etc. Because when people search for gyms before summertime when they want to get fit, they also search for personal trainers. The more interesting stuff is we have cheap homes, for example. So what could possibly be the relationship between somebody who wants to buy a cheap house or find a cheap home and is looking for a trainer? We'll find out. Best vacation, that's also strange. People going on, maybe they're looking for a trainer before they go on vacation. Affordable wedding. Women want to get in their wedding business. Birthday themes, that's really strange. Why would somebody look for a personal trainer for his birthday? That doesn't make any sense. And then we have dog license, which is the strangest one, and actually it's the fifth highest correlating after low calorie. So people who are looking for dog licenses, or the search patterns of search for dog licenses are very much correlated with search patterns for personal trainers. And we'll dig in now, and we'll see what's out there for us. So rough segmentation of the market, that's, it takes exactly 2 seconds to do that search. And you get like a nice, broad, maybe not so accurate picture of what you should be looking at in more detail. And so we have weight loss, which is a very obvious one. I mean, we knew that, we didn't need anybody to tell us that. Pregnant and fresh mothers, and now we're gonna see why from the data. actually some of the keywords, so I had a long list of keywords, some of the keywords, so if we group them together, cheap homes, prenatal yoga, first birthday, affordable wedding, these all basically tell us that this is a newlywed woman basically who's looking maybe to buy a cheap home for her and her husband to move into. She's pregnant, she's looking for ways to, I don't even know what that is, but I'm sure it's some pregnancy workout. First birthday, so the first birthday of her newborn. So she's googling ways on how she can throw a birthday party for her child. And at the same time, maybe she's trying to lose weight for the weight that she gained during her pregnancy. So she's trying to find a personal trainer. Now this is really useful because in marketing, if you try to go for the obvious, you're going to end up paying much more than you should be paid for your marketing costs. So for your clicks. Sorry. So you might have a competitor, which is a really big company that does the exact same thing. You might be paying $10 a click on a Google ad that's related to a personal trainer, while you might go and be really sneaky and bid for affordable wedding, or maybe some people are bidding for that, maybe yoga, and that would be much cheaper. And then you'd be acquiring users at a much cheaper rate. So it might be $1 compared to $10. And if you have much less money than they do, then that's really powerful because if you've raised $1 million, and you're spending whatever out of that in marketing, that's the equivalent of you raising $10 million, just having figured something like that out. Because if you're spending your money, assuming you're spending your money on customer acquisition, all of it. Moving on to people searching for dogs. That's range. We're going to take a look at the Excel sheet now. So what I've done here is so these are covariances, not the correlations. But just assume that green color means high correlation, red color means negative correlation, and then no color or yellowish. White yellowish means, no correlation, and then red is negative correlation. All right, so this data is actually from 2005, and this is every week since 2005 these searches were being done. So I'm going to scroll down, and I've highlighted some things here so you can probably read them. I'm going to scroll down, and soon you're going to see a pattern. So you see here, like this is all red, and then all of a sudden it turns yellow, and then we scroll down a little bit more, and again it happens, again, and sort of as we move downwards to more recent years, the intensity, you can't see that because of the colors on the projector, but in fact we have pretty high correlations here. And the intensity of the correlations always increase at this certain period of the year. Anybody want to guess what this period is? If you can't see the numbers. Anybody want to guess what this period of the year is when correlations all of a sudden increase? Yeah.
Before summertime?
Before summer? No, that's the August. That's what I thought as well when I first.
At the end of the year?
Yeah. So this is the 29th of December every year when they break from red to green. And this is when people make their New Year's resolution. So they want to buy a new dog. They they want to get fit. So life-changing events in general are correlated with each other. So I might say I want to buy a new dog because I don't have any friends, and then maybe I don't have any friends because I'm fat, so I want to get a trainer. But actually, this is a trick. So this is something that we don't know. We don't know that it's the same person. We know that they're correlated. So there might be completely two different people making their New Year's Eve resolution. And this guy wants to get a dog. The other guy wants to get a personal trainer. And by targeting the guy with the dog, you're not going to get him to go to the gym. He's not the same guy. So we might be assumption that we made. I don't know how many of you were sort of paying attention to that. But this is tricky. When you're working with correlations, again, never assume causation when you see correlation. You need to validate that. I just want to take you through some of the keywords. So we have affordable wedding, YMCA. This is interesting. This is not necessarily a marketing hint, but it could be hinting towards maybe you want to partner with them. Again, if there's causation. You know, maybe people who look for personal trainers typically go looking in the YMCA, I don't know, beach wedding, again, honeymoon, best honeymoon, so this only strengthens our sort of belief that pregnant women, or you know, pregnant or post-pregnancy women are looking for personal trainers. And the really interesting thing here is, I'm gonna go back to the slides. So the really interesting thing here is that you have different timing for different keywords. So if you would have, again, if there is causation, and if you, if you target dog owner, people are looking for dogs or searching for dogs, let's see in April, it wouldn't work at all because there's no correlation during that period of time. So what you're getting here is two things. You're getting, who should I target? You're also getting some hints towards, for example, if your marketing strategies involve creating a blog, for example, blogging about things. So you want to blog about 10 ways to change your life next year, after New Year's, whatever. There's a lot of these blogs. Then you want to talk about dogs. That wouldn't work if you didn't do it at the right timing, because it's only in that period of time, that period of the year, when these things trend together, and there may be a relationship of causality between the two. So you're getting the timing right as well. You're getting, and again, that's an advantage against your competitors. Your competitors might be, if they discover that keyword, they might be spending money on that keyword throughout the whole year because like, we got some business out of that, I remember. And then you know why and you know when exactly to pause and play your the adverts that you're paying for. And so you're saving all of the money that they're losing on their ads. So it's really powerful. Another tool which I want to introduce to is Google Trends, and so it's the inverse actually of Google Correlate. So Google Trends simply gives you search volume. Another assumption that we made here was that they're correlated New Year's Eve, but who said that they're correlated and there's an increase? They could be decreasing together, right? So there could be a decline in search during New Year's Eve, and that they would be positively correlated. But so we validated that here with trends. So we pick up the search volume for that particular term, and then we can go through it. So how many minutes do we have left for?
15.
15. I can actually start now. Because the presentation is done. So, so we're gonna go through a pretty interesting exercise. It's fresh out of the oven. We're actually shooting a YouTube ad for Yamsafir. We've shot it. Nobody's seen it yet. You guys are gonna be the first. But what you need to do is we want to now we're in the process of optimizing the ad, right? So we want to make it better. We want to make it more appealing and to serve the purpose that we're trying to have it serve. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to create an experiment. You're going to change one thing about the app. Then we're going to have a control group, and then we're going to have the version that you guys created, basically. You don't need to actually create it, right? It's a video, but just think about something that you would change about the app. And you also need to think about what you're testing. So what is the goal that will determine which one is better? So just to give you some ideas, some things that you might want to change might be the video thumbnail, for example, that shows on YouTube. So you can choose which thumbnail you want the ad to show. You might want to add a call to action, for example, towards the end of the ad in the video. They say, do this or do that. You might want to have something different about the voiceover, the text of the ad. And then in terms of the goals, you might want to measure site visits. How many people visit the site after they view the ad? You want to measure referred customers, so not only visits. I want to measure visits that actually bought something, virality, etc. So I'm just going to play the ad, and I'm going to play it a couple of times and sort of give you guys 15 to 20 minutes to think about this. I'll also go back to this slide before we break off, so just to go through what you need to watch out for. So obviously, you need to look at all of the elements that we just talked about. Again, we have a control group, which gets the normal version, and then we have the experiment group, which we're serving the changed version. You need to define your metrics. Okay, I'm going to play it for the first time. And I should tell you also that the purpose behind this is to brand ourselves with existing customers. Okay, so we only serve this ad to people who have already visited our site. So only if you visit the Msafiri will be served this ad on YouTube. You know, the YouTube ads which you can skip and play before the video. So we will only serve this ad to these users. And our purpose is to sort of strengthen our branding with people who have already visited us or already know about us. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about what you would change about.
الحجز سريع مع ليلى شكل، بس الحجز لسه أسرع من كده بكتير مع ينسافر.
I'm going to replay it.
بطولة أسرع طريقة دفع برواية ينسافر، والنهارده البطل هو ست ومش أي ست. الحجز سريع مع ليلى شكل، بس الحجز لسه أسرع من كده بكتير مع ينسافر.
Alright, so before you decide on something, try to imagine yourself as somebody who's going through the experience. So you might have, for example, you went on the Msafir site, you left the site, I don't know, maybe because you were distracted, maybe you didn't like the price, but you didn't even know what it was. And then you were watching something on YouTube and this ad comes up. So this is the sort of typical scenario that the viewers of this ad will be put in. Go back to this slide. So does anybody have any questions about something that you don't understand, maybe what you're supposed to do, or?
So you guys provide booking services?
Yeah. Booking services. I didn't say that. I assumed that everybody knows. Anyone else?
So you want them to change one element in the ad, or they decide what element or elements to change?
So they decide what element they're going to change, and then they decide what goal or what they're going to track to decide between the two versions. So just to give you guys an example, if you change, let's say you put towards the beginning of the video a text that says, "Hey, hold on, don't skip that ad." Okay? So your skips. Maybe, I don't know, just giving an example, but the percentage of viewers actually skipping the ad might drop, right? Because people will be like, oh, but, that's interesting, why should I skip that ad? But then with that, maybe the referred customers will also drop because they'll be like, that's a weird ad, I don't trust that brand. So you need to, there might be something good happening and something else bad happening at the same time, but you need to sort of pick the winner out of all. Obviously, when you do these experiments in real life, you don't sort of, you take a broader approach, but for our purpose today, let's decide on one for whatever you're tracking, okay?
How many iterations do we get?
How many iterations you get? So how many views you mean, or?
No, I mean if we change something and we...
just one. So yeah, you get to do one experiment. Obviously, again, real life, it's a really good question. In real life, you'd be repeating that. So you change one thing, you have a million things in mind which you think might be better or worse in the video, right? You might be like, maybe the thumbnail, if it was different, maybe if this was different, maybe if that was different. So, huge companies sometimes might do them all at once. Google I don't know how many A/B tests they run a day. I think they serve like maybe 1% of their users are served versions which nobody else is served, and that 1% makes a huge amount of people, so they can make a lot of experiments. What usually very smaller companies do with not a lot of users, they would sort of keep changing things for different reasons. One, they don't have the sample size, so if I have 10,000 users a day, I can probably only conduct maybe 1 to 2 experiments a day, depending on what I'm testing, again, depending on where your users are. The second reason is once you change something, then once you change the other thing, it might have been dependent on the first thing which you changed. Your tests are independent of the changes that you made in the past. And that's why the best way to do it is to keep iterating. So you change the first thing, the first conclusion that you come to, then you conduct another test on a different thing that you want to improve, then you conduct another one. That's a very basic approach. Okay, so do you guys want to watch it again or again? All right.
البطل هو زد ومش لاقي زد. الحجز سريع ما علينا شك، بس الحجز لسه أسرع من كده بكتير. يا مسافر.
All right, so
that's the control.
That's the control.
Do you want them to work in groups or individually?
I think groups make sense for that kind of thing. So maybe one guy has a really good idea, the other person, has an idea on what they should track. So you guys can do it together.
Doesn't make sense.
Group B.
Yes. We thought about changing 3 things. The first thing is we change the voice, we make it clearer, and also reduce the skip rate. Or it should reduce the measurement of the skip rate. And what we're gonna change is the voice. Also, we thought about the call to action. Instead of putting gamsafer.me at the end, we put visit our book with us now. We add the call to action. This will increase the site visits. Also, we thought about changing the music.
The music.
Social media.
No, we wanted to change the music because شوي هاي موسيقى شعبية. And if someone wants to book using online booking, he would be a little bit more respected, and he wouldn't want to listen to this kind of
Okay,
music.
let's just pause for a second. So you're changing 3 things. You're doing 3 different experiments, right? So let's go one by one. Or actually, let's skip to the last one because you didn't say what are you measuring for the last one. What is your measurement? Okay, so you think that changing the music will have less people skip because they like the music, or?
No, because they will not know the music. And if you were putting headphones and this song pops out, you will immediately.
You'll be annoyed. Okay.
هو بيحكي عن الفويس وبيحكي عن السورس.
But there are 2 different things, so that's correct, right? Because if you actually want to validate that the guy's voice, we don't know what's annoying. There's something annoying about it. We think that it's the music, we think that it's the voice. Some of you might say voice, some of you might say music. But the perfect way to do it is, change the voice, see how it you might be both as well, right? So change the voice, see how people react, then change the music, see how people react.
And then you can change both and see how people
Right. No, but you've already changed one, so you can do that as well to further validate that it was both. But I think once you get one right, then you definitely know that this thing has an impact on drop-off. Now there might be a sea of other things that are making people skip the ad, but you wanna try and gather as many of those and treat them one by one. Okay, so group, are you ready now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we decided to change the boxing thing and put just the logo so you can increase the visits. That's all.
Yeah, put the website address at the beginning, not at the end,
Okay.
to increase the site visits.
No, we didn't
That's
think
the
about the
extent.
music. No, we-
You don't have to.
Oh, okay.
That's perfectly fine.
Oh.
Okay, does anybody disagree, or does everybody think that's
I don't think that's sufficient because people won't know what the function is before they're going to ignore it.
People will?
They're not going to know what the function is.
Uh-huh.
And
So
that's what
I-
the commercial is for.
Right.
Should I do a comment on that?
Yeah.
You told us already that the sample is for the users who already visited the website.
That's
So
true.
we're just establishing the brand and displaying the website for them.
Yeah.
The other point is that the user usually skips the advertisement in the first 6 seconds. He has once the button appears to skip the advertisement, he will. So displaying the website at the beginning will help definitely with the
I want to pause for a second. That's a really good point because, or that's something major that we want to treat here, right? Because even people who are skipping the ad, we can get what we wanted out of it, right?
Exactly.
All we wanted was to increase branding and impression amongst people who have already visited the site. So even if they have skipped the ad, if you've served, I don't want to say any form of branding. There's obviously bad branding as well. But if you've managed to serve something, then that's useful. Because some people will skip all ads. I skip pretty much every ad that I see on YouTube.
Most of the
Some people like the ad, but they'll skip it because they really need to watch the next video. They're in a hurry or something, or they're showing somebody something, so they don't want the other person to see it as well. Like, yeah, they're not interested in that.
So the point is
if you manage to capture something at the very early stage. These are the mechanics of advertising on YouTube, really. So it differs from a TV ad to a YouTube ad. You might want to make a TV ad really funny, really something that the user might connect with, and then do something very short towards the end because he must watch it. He's sitting there in front of his TV set, can't skip it. But you want to serve something else on YouTube.
So the point of the ad was just to remind people about Yom Safed, not to introduce people to it.
I mean, yeah, the more that you can, so this gets more complicated because then you want to come in and you want to say, okay, what is the problem with these people who went on the site and then dropped off? What are we trying to treat here? It might be price. So you might want to communicate that you have great rates at the very early stage or through the ads. It might be confidence. So people are too scared to use their credit cards on your site. So you want to flex your muscle as a brand, and you say, I partnered with this, I partnered with that, I'm featured in this newspaper.
So it's about the objective
I
of the
have,
ad.
Sodara Ventures invested in us, and we have money, and all of that stuff. So it depends on the problem that you're trying to treat. But that's a good point. I mean, I didn't put that in, but it's definitely a question that you should be asking when you do decide to make these changes.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So when you're establishing the ad, basically your objective is to treat a problem, right? Which is you already have a customer base, you're trying to treat the perceived value that your already established customers have, right?
I'm not sure I get your question.
It's about the perceived value, not about increasing your customer base. You already have the customer base, and
Yeah.
you're trying to.
No, you're trying to increase your customer base by capturing potential customers who are currently lost, right? So somebody when again, imagine yourself in this area where you went on the site, you search for prices, you almost checked out, and then your mother came in, she told you something, maybe you ended up opening another tab because you wanted to search for a recipe, and then you forgot all about it. You're like, I don't feel like booking a hotel anymore, I'll do it tomorrow. So it might be that scenario. It might be somebody who intentionally dropped out for whatever reason. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to, and obviously you have all different people that dropped off for different reasons. Actually, one of the things that you can do is you can serve ads to people based on their behavior on your site. So I would be like, if somebody did a date search, that means that he got engaged. And so, but maybe he didn't like the prices, so he dropped off later. So I would serve him an ad and talk about the price, versus if somebody reached the checkout page and then he dropped off, it might be a problem with confidence, because he liked the price, he reached the checkout page, he was about to enter his credit card details, dropped off. So I would serve this guy an ad about, you know, increasing confidence in the brand. And that's something that we do. You know, we put when you enter our site, we have different buckets for people, and then we use these buckets to retarget you on Facebook. It's not by coincidence that if you visit our site, you can see a lot of Facebook ads, a lot of ads on YouTube, etc. We only serve them to you, but depending on the bucket that you're in, and you know that bucket is basically a problem. So we say this bucket is for people who you know probably have this specific problem. That's why I didn't check out. So we'd serve you one form of an ad, or we target you in a specific channel, etc. So it's very customized depending on what happened earlier on.
How did you find out if a guy does a date search he's engaged? How did you find that out?
So you can use different tools you use for action tracking, which we basically put in a JavaScript code, very simple. Track actions. Kissmetrics is probably the best one. Mixpanel is probably the best one. Kissmetrics for me comes in second. So you can check these out, and very easy to install. Gives you so much valuable data about what people are actually doing. You know, not only passive data, but really active data. And you can pass on values as well. So if somebody did a date search, you also know which dates they searched for, which is useful, for example, for doing other things. So I know that people, for example, typically search for 6 days in advance of their trip, but then they change their dates. So maybe that gives me a hint to know, oh, there's no availability in the hotel. Maybe that's why they changed their dates. Or maybe they didn't book because they're still unsure about their dates, right? So you can infer many things from what actions tell you.
بدي احكي شيء هلا انا لما حضرت الفيديو عرفت انه يعني من الفيديو اللي حضرته عرفت انه انت التارجت تبعك هم الناس اللي بيهتموا انه يحجزوا اسرع. يعني انا هيك لما شفت الفيديو فانه تصفوا تركزوا على شغلات مثلا على الدفع الاسرع على شيء ثاني هيك بصفي بشتت. فبالاول لو انه مثلا تحطوا انه لحجز اسرع يعني ضل نفس الكونسبت انه ضلكم تحكوا عن حجز اسرع تركزوا على هاي النقطه. فانه يضل في تغيير باكثر من شغله يعني اذا مثلا انا بستهدف الناس اللي بيهتموا بالبرايسز ممكن يكون فيديو ثاني. اما هذا الفيديو حسب ما انا شفته انه المفروض يركز على انه الحجز مع يوم مسافر رح يكون اسرع.
Okay, so consistency. Right. Did Group C, where's Group C? Do you have a Group C?
Yes.
So
Here
you guys wanna...
we are Group C. We thought that we like the ad as it is. So you need to filter the sound. But we thought, why not produce the same video in different accents? So this way you're targeting each country. As you're already considering a whole Egyptian theme. Why not maybe a Lebanese theme or from the Gulf or something? The same sentences, the same phrases, the same concept, just in different accents.
Okay, but so
this way, if you have customers or users from Egypt, they would feel more the video would be more appealing to them, and they would feel more closer.
But that's an idea that we have, right? We think that maybe Egyptians don't trust other Egyptians, for example. They trust Lebanese people more than they trust Maybe, right? So what would our test be about? So in that case, for example, we would serve to the Egyptian market 2 different ads. One which is let's say our control, which is what we have right now, which is an Egyptian accent. Then we serve another ad in Lebanese, right? And then we would test, what you're talking about is we would test the amount of customers coming out. Because that's
and also site visits.
And
you're already calling them
again,
to
in
visit
reality,
the site.
it's a bunch of other things, because you take a broader look at this, but I just want you guys to sort of get the hang of it, the relationship between things.
Retention. I think it's good.
Yeah. You see, this is
I'm not saying
this is a
they
perfect
need to
representation of the
change
problem
the
that you have in the
accent.
startup,
Just use
because you have two people, she
keep
thinks it's
Egyptian
good,
and
she
other
thinks it's
accents.
bad, and everybody has an opinion. And then you use data to solve these problems. And usually data is right. So yeah. Anybody else?
No, I want to add something. The best part of the video was in the end because of the music. So why not we play the music at the beginning?
True.
To attract the customers.
وكمان شغله كنت احكي انه باخر لما تخلص انه بما انه اللي زاروا اللي انت تستهدفهم من ناس اوريدي زاروا يا مسافر، مش المفروض تحط لمزيد من المعلومات اللي هم اوريدي بيعرفوا، فلو احسن تحط لحجز اسرع زوروا موقع يا مسافر احسن.
Or just Zoom.
Okay. So again, we have 20 different opinions. I feel sorry for the guy producing this video if he had to, have many people telling him, no, put this, put that, and so you need really a way to decide, which is going to be the cutoff. Anyway, so do you have time for questions or?
I think we should wrap up.
Okay.
We have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Does anybody have a question on their mind? Not about the video, but the material that we covered. Anything that you guys feel like maybe I didn't cover deep enough? Yeah.
So, the main objective of market research or any research is it identifying a relationship between two items or two different things, or about the objective of the research? Which one comes first? Do you need to identify
so what I
the
covered
relationship
today,
and then?
yeah. So I didn't today. I didn't mean to tell you guys this is how you do market research, because my presentation really is about how you can use data, and data is a tool. So think about it. I don't know, like you think about any other tool that you use. So you can use this bottle to water the plants. You can use the drink from it. You can use it to do a million other things. But it's a very helpful tool. So you can use it to do market research. You can use it to do A/B tests, like similar to what we just did right now. I put a bunch of examples here. For example, at Yamsafir, we use it also to decide which hotels we're going to acquire. So we know.
What I meant, when you want to use data, do you need to identify the relationship in order to use data more efficiently and effectively, or do you have to set your objective first?
You have to set your objective first. So in certain cases, like the example I gave you here, maybe I didn't set an objective very clearly. Maybe it was my fault, but I definitely think that within a work environment, you can't just be fiddling around because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of data, and you're just going to find yourself wasting a lot of time. So you should definitely set at least a broad objective of what you want to get out of this, so you know which data set to go to. Which data set do I need? So if I don't have an objective, I can be looking at any data around the world, right? So I need to set an objective, then I know, I choose my data sets, and then I start zooming in on the more interesting stuff. And then hopefully I find what I was looking for.
All right. So just want to emphasize how important this topic is. What Feris is going through is really the basics of data. It's the very beginning of data, and I can tell you for sure that Sidara would never invest in a company that is not doing this kind of basic data analysis. So if this isn't making sense, then you should be working harder to understand it. This is probably one of the most important topics in the entire course, and that's why it's the only topic where we have two, except finance, where we have two sessions on the topic. So it's really, really important, and we have a really smart guy teaching it. How many of you did no work to prepare for this session? How many did 0 hours of time to prepare?
For this session?
For this session.
We will test it later. We'll do an A/B test.
Be honest, it's okay. Who did nothing? Feris, how long did you prepare for this session?
I spent a good amount of time, maybe like 3 hours a day for the past couple of days.
3 hours a day for the past couple of days. Feris is the CEO of a company So I need you guys to do more work to prepare for these sessions. We need to impress him with how prepared we are, and it's a big problem when you're not prepared because it's bad for us as Start Me Up, it's bad for Faris who's putting a lot of time to help all of you. So for the next session, we're all going to be ready. Faris has asked that we do the homework in advance this time, so it'll be due on Tuesday, the day before his session on Wednesday.
Exactly. But so this is not the homework for next session. It'll be a different set of homework for next session, but this is just to connect the two sessions so I get an idea of where you guys are halfway through, so I can. But you know, if nobody's doing the homework, then I mean, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to contribute much in the next session. So depending on where you guys get to within 2 days, then I'm going to be able to take you further along the way in the next session. So hopefully everybody takes this seriously. Taylor will send it over by email. If you have any questions regarding the exercise, since we don't have time now, just you can forward my email to everybody and you can ask me directly.
Take advantage of this guy. He's really smart. He has a lot of work to do, and he's being very generous with his time. So let's take advantage of it. Thank you very much, Faris. We'll see you a week from today. So our next session is going to be with Said. It'll be in the Sidar office. I'll send you where that is. Don't leave without doing a feedback form, please. And that's it. Thank you, Faris.
Thank you.